Hello everyone, thanks for joining us this morning and welcome to this educational presentation of a strategy I've been trading for 40 years, and in all actuality it's actually 42 years. I've been trading actually over 4 decades now, and even though I've been trading that long, I know a lot of you say, well Steve, you started out on the floor of the stock exchange and you had advanced information and you've been trading that long. That's why it's probably easy for you to know how to be a consistent trader. Well, believe it or not, I first started trading out 42 years ago like everyone else. I was following the same things, the same exact patterns, the same exact fundamental news that you were supposed to be watching 42 years ago is the exact same thing that you're taught to be watching today. And let me share with you how those things worked out over 4 decades ago for me. For example, let's look at this chart right here. This is a current chart in ATGE. Now, this is the way I used to trade and the way I would project how I would generate a signal. Looking at this, you'd say, well, okay, we've been going up, and the class I took on institutions say that the institutions are causing this to go up, so I'm going to be a buyer too because you want to go along with the institutions. After all, that's the big money and they know what they're doing. I'd also taken some classes on technical analysis and on chart patterns, and you could see from here that this was a high-level consolidation, some type of a pennant or flag formation. Usually what happens at this consolidation is when you break out, which it looks like you're just about to do here, you get the same upward movement, usually about the same distance as the run-up before. So that was a very positive sign. I would take that into account. I'd also read a bunch of books and had studied with someone who taught me how to look at candlesticks. And looking at this right here, this is a bullish engulfing pattern, extremely bullish. And so I would use the traditional ways of trading with candlesticks and figure that this is extremely positive. So you have these 3 things all together. So I would jump in based off of traditional education, the things I had been taught, most likely things you're probably listening to today, and I would jump in and buy right here, waiting for that nice big run-up. And then this would happen, okay? Look familiar to anybody, all right? And I thought, well, how could that be? All these things are supposed to have high levels of consistency, supposed to work really well. Well, I guess they broke down, so for all intents and purposes, we're now in a downtrend. So I would take a loss, and then I would switch gears and say, well, if we're going lower, we've broken all this support. I guess all the institutions are now selling. It looks like everything is going lower, so now I'll be a seller. So right here where I'd sell and go short, then this would happen, okay? Once again, look familiar to anybody. This is the way I would venture to say the majority of all traders trade. Usually a day late and a dollar short, always just behind the 8 ball, just kind of getting caught up and thinking that you're in sync with the market, and then things change and you're actually doing the opposite of what you should be doing. I was lucky. I had some mentors on the trading floor who were trading themselves roughly about 40 years each, and they basically taught me the same things I teach to my students around the world in over 115 countries and in virtually every state. Basically, we're listening to things that have no sense of consistency in them. We've all been taught that they're supposed to, but they really don't. They really have no sense of working over time. They will work every once in a while. But it's really something that really leads the majority of all traders, roughly about 85% now of all traders ultimately fail because they're following these things that have no consistency. Well, I'm going to share with you the basic ingredients to a strategy that my traders, my mentors taught me to trade some 42 years ago that actually, if I had gotten rid of all this, what they called useless noise, I could have just been quiet and sat back and waited for the market, not the institutions, not the candlesticks, not the patterns, but the market to tell me that it wanted to go higher right here and simply wait for a buy signal to be generated right at the bottom there before you could have captured upwards of 7 points in the next couple of weeks. Okay? And I'm going to show you how simple this is today. It's a simple 4-step process. You'll be able to see it appear almost magically on your PTS Primo Charting Platform. So welcome once again. My name is Stephen Primo, President and Founder of Specialist Trading. And if there's one thing I've learned in my 42 years, it's that traders overcomplicate things. We put too much on our trading plan and we think that, well, that's supposed to work. The more complicated you make something, the more valid it will be. And what I've learned in 4 decades is that it's actually the opposite. The simpler you can make things, the more valid your strategy will be and the higher level of consistency you will have, okay? So it's not about adding things to our trading plan. It's about subtracting things. It's about peeling the onion and getting down to the bare bones of what really is valid, what really is important. And that's what we do at Specialist Trading. Now, 10 years ago, I teamed up with Pro Trader Strategies with one goal in mind, and that was simply to educate traders around the world and to simplify things in order to make them a consistent trader, and also in order to let them make their own decisions. You see, if you've come here today thinking that I'm going to tell you exactly what to buy and what to sell, I'm going to give you a list of all the things to buy tomorrow and all the things to sell in the perfect market and the perfect time frame, you've really come to the wrong place, because that's not what we do. We are first and foremost an educational company with our only goal simply to educate you. Now, sure, we provide you with signals that our strategies generate, not us, but our strategies generate based off consistent methods. But what we want to do is teach you how to spot these things on your own, so that you don't have to rely on the up and down arrows. You don't have to rely on any tools or indicators. You can just, after studying for a while, you can spot a setup on your own. That's the goal, and that's where we want to get you to be, because in our opinion, that's what makes a consistent trader. So I'm going to share that process with you, one of our processes that we teach our students around the world, and you're going to see how simple it is to become a consistent trader with this process. But before we begin, as always, we are required to share this with you, so please take a moment to view our disclaimer. I'm going to show you a lot of performance results by trading this strategy that I've been applying to my own personal trading for over 4 decades, but please remember that we can in no way guarantee that any of the results I'm about to share with you will be repeated in the future. And also remember that this entire class, all the examples I'm going to be sharing with you, are strictly for educational purposes only. Now, as you're taking a brief moment to view our disclaimer, please, if you haven't done so already, please feel free to follow us on Twitter. There is a lot of great free education I post on a daily basis. Anywhere from strategy signals that are currently being generated to little bits of wisdom, financial wisdom to help you along the way. A lot of great free educational information to help you become a consistent trader. So there's our handle right there. You may want to copy that down. Please feel free to follow us on Twitter. Now, as I stated in the opening statements of today's presentation just a few minutes ago, we're a little bit different from other webinars you may have attended in the fact that we are only about educating you. That's our goal. So as you see here, my goal is not to force feed you signals. My goal is not to tell you, well, this is the perfect market to trade. No one knows about this market yet, or no one knows about this time frame, so I'm going to teach it to you so that we can get it in it ahead of everyone else. That's not what we do. Our goal is simply to teach you high quality, consistent methods that have stood the test of time. Remember, I've been trading for over 4 decades now. I started my career on the floor of the Pacific Stock Exchange. I was on the floor for 16 years, and out of those years I was a specialist. That's where we get the name specialist trading. A specialist is someone who made markets in roughly about 50 or 60 stocks. So in my 42 years of trading, I've seen just about everything. I've traded just about every system, every method. I've traded straight up, straight down markets. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's you've got to be in charge of your own trading. You've got to make your own trading decisions, not someone else. So that's why our goal here is to teach you how to trade with the specialist edge. It's the same edge that was taught to me and has sustained me now for 42 years, and that's what we want to do with all of our students around the world. Be able to sustain you now for 10, 20, 30, 40 years down the road so that you can make your own trading decisions, okay? Now, since this is an educational class, please ask as many questions as you want, but the only request I have is that you wait till the very end of class to ask them, because I have a lot of slides to share with you, and if we stop at every slide, we may be here far too long, so I don't want to take up all of your morning here, stopping and looking and answering a question and stopping and answering another question. So please, if we wait till the end, you'll be able to see the entire process of the presentation. Now, the only question I will answer is this being recorded? Yes, it is. So often a lot of our students have to leave early, or they have a trade going on, they can't watch, or maybe they're having technical issues. Don't worry. We will send each and every one of you a link to this recording so you can watch it later on at your own leisure, okay? Okay, with that said, please wait till the end to ask any questions. Let's begin today's presentation. We're going to be talking about strategy number 4. This is the strategy that was first taught to me on the floor of the Pacific Stock Exchange by my mentors when I was struggling some 42 years ago. And I have been using it in some capacity on a daily basis now for over 4 decades. So let me share with you some of the highlights of this particular method. It's designed for traders looking to catch momentum. When I first started trading this on the floor, I mean, we were basically day traders. We were getting in and out of trades in about 5 minutes at a time. So that's basically the way I used it. But we've constructed and developed it so that you can use it if you're a swing trader, even if you're an investor. You can stay in trades for days, weeks, months, even years if you like, okay? Now, it's a pattern recognition strategy, so it's based off a specific pattern. Now, unfortunately, I can't share with you what that pattern is. It wouldn't be fair to the students around the world who have purchased this method, but I'm going to be just showing you the exact process of what you need. I'll be sharing with you one of the actual rules of this particular method. Now, it only uses one indicator. That's the 50-period moving average. That's how simple it is, because it's based off a pattern that we teach you to look for, okay? All right, so let's begin today's educational class. And we're going to take you step by step through the process of how simple it is to really become consistent. And please remember, when I say consistent, I know a lot of you think, well, consistent, wow, that's great. That means I'm going to have a bunch of winners. That's not what consistency means. Consistency is an awareness that you will have losses from time to time, okay? That's the first thing you must be aware of when you talk about consistency. We do have losses. I'll show you in a couple of minutes some of the losses that were generated. But a consistent method is a method that's able to recoup those losses. Remember, we're looking for a 2-step forward, 1-step back approach. The 1 step back being the losses. So that's okay. There's nothing wrong with having a loss. Don't ever let anyone tell you that, oh, I have a trading method that never loses, because if they never lose, trust me, there's a big loss coming and waiting for them just around the corner. That's perfectly okay for a method that, to have a loss. That's okay. What you want is a method that's able to recoup that, and that's what we mean by consistency. 2 step forward, 1 step back. Now you're going to see how simple it is. I'm going to show you this process that you can apply on our PTS Primo Charting Platform. I developed this with Pro Trader Strategies with one goal in mind, and that was simply to make trading very easy and very simple and teach you how to trade. Actually have a process in mind so that you can go through it step by step and really learn how to become a consistent trader. All right, step 1. Choose the market you're interested in buying. Now, obviously, someone's saying, well, yeah, I mean, why do you have to tell me that? I know what market I want to trade. The reason why we say this is because strategy number 4 is so versatile, it can be applied to any market. So when we say choose the market, sure, it can be currency pairs, it can be commodities, it can be stocks, futures, Bitcoin, it can be a 5-minute chart, it can be a monthly chart. So that's what we mean by choosing the market, because there's such a wide range of ways and markets you can trade this. So let's look at this older example in NTAP, okay, NTAP. Now I'm going to start off, by the way, with sharing with you some older examples, and these are just for educational purposes, and then towards the latter part of the presentation, we'll start looking at current examples, and we'll look at things that happened in the last week or so, okay? All right, so in hindsight, sure, this has been going up. How could we have captured some of these nice upward moves, okay? So we've chosen the market. Now we go to step 2. We want to click on the buy-sell line in the upper green strategy tab of our platform, okay? So we have the platform here, the PTS Primo Charting Platform, and we made this, once again, simple. We put it in the far left-hand corner, so that's where you'd start in our green strategy tab here. Just click that on, the buy-sell line. Now, what is the buy-sell line? Remember, I told you we only use one indicator in this strategy. And what indicator is that? Well, it's the 50-period moving average. We call that our buy-sell line. And we have roughly 4 different ways to display it. Let's choose our most advanced way, and that is the fluid buy-sell line. Okay, so let's click that on. Click on the fluid feature. And automatically, you see this appear. You'll see the screen being either colored a blue or a kind of reddish orange. What does this mean? Well, if price has the bluish background, that means you're in the buy zone. That means it's okay to be a buyer. That's the mindset you should have, only as a buyer. Now, if price is in the reddish orange zone, well, you're in the sell zone. That means you should only be looking at this particular market from a seller's point of view. You see how we've already eliminated half the battle? We already know whether we're going to be a buyer or a seller. So we knew well back in advance, before we had this big upward move, we knew well back here, 3 to 5 bars closing in the buy zone is enough to tell us that we should only be a buyer well in advance of this large move. Okay, let's go to step 3 now. We only want to trade signals that have a steep upward sloping buy-sell line. Okay, so now we go back to the chart and we see here that the buy-sell line slope is kind of flat to sideways. But right here, it starts to have this nice upward steep slope. This is the sweet spot. This is where we want to take our signals. Now, sure, signals may be generated anywhere around here, but it's when we have this nice upward slope that we have seen in the past that we have that strong momentum. Remember, strategy 4 is a momentum strategy. So we're looking to catch momentum, and when we have this strong upward slope, that's where we want to look for the buy signals to be generated. Now, in our course, we teach you what to look for so that you automatically know where this pattern is being generated. But one way to check your work is to click on Strategy 4 in the green upper Strategy tab. All right, so obviously we want to be looking for signals here. Now, once you've taken the course, after maybe a couple of days, a couple of weeks, you'll know how to properly identify a setup. Let's say right here, you think that there's a buy signal. Well, the way the platform educates you and allows you to check your work is you simply click on strategy number 4. When the drop-down menu appears, click on signal arrows, and you'll see that, yes, you were right. It fulfilled all the requirements, and there actually was a buy signal there. So that's the signal you want to take, not something back here. As you see, there was a sell signal here, and I'll talk about that in just a few seconds. But this is the signal you want to take, and as you can see, in the next couple of weeks, you had a 10-point gain. That's how simple it is with this process. Now, I know you're saying, well, how come you didn't take that sell? Well, remember, the process works the exact same way with selling. If we're looking for buy signals with a strong upward slope, then obviously if we have a sell signal generated, we want to see a strong downward slope. So what is the view of the slope here at this point? It's kind of going upwards to sideways, right? So we're not going to take that sell. So we just saved a faulty trade there because we would have sold and we would have had a loss. Do you see what we mean by consistency? Okay? This is a way at times, not guaranteed, but at times to filter out some of those losses. All right, so let's look at the opposite side. What if we're going to go short? Well, same thing. We choose the market we're interested in selling. By selling, we mean going short. Now, you can purchase puts if you like. You can have some type of spread strategy with a bias to the downside. If you have enough capital, you can go short the stock. It's entirely up to you. We're just teaching you these high probability setups. How you want to get into the trade is your choice once again. All right, let's look at DKS. All right, once again, in hindsight, someone say, well, Steve, yeah, it's easy to see that I should have been selling this and not have bought anything, but I want to know way in advance before this, bottom fell out right here. How could I have known here? All right, well, let's go on to step number 2. Let's click on the buy sell line in the upper green strategy tab. So we click that on, and in this case, we want to click on fluid once again. And as you can see, we have been in the sell zone well in advance of that large drop. You see how beautiful this is? It's so simple because you've known in advance that you should have only had a seller's point of view, a seller's bias. Why would you ever want to buy anything when it's in the reddish-orange sell zone? The odds are in your favor if you only look to sell. Same way if price is in the blue buy zone. As you can see here, price has not been in the blue buy zone for months now, or weeks. All right, so we know that we should have only been selling. There's no reason we would have been long. Now we go to step 3. So we're only going to trade signals that have a steep downward sloping buy sell line. Well, as far as we can tell, this has been a steep downward sloping the entire time. So any signal is going to be fine. So all you would have to do is click on strategy 4 in the upper green strategy tab. The drop-down menu appears, click on sell signals, and look at all the chances you had to go short, okay? These are all valid signals according to the required pattern that we're looking for, all right? Now, some are better than others. In a few moments, I'll show you a way how to even weed out some of the better signals from the faulty ones in just a few moments, though. All right, so let's look at some recent examples. Now that you know the 4-step process and you see how simple this is, not that it's 100% guaranteed that every trade is going to be a winner, but you see how simple it is to have that consistency in your process. 2 step forward, 1 step back. Okay, let's look at ATGE again. Remember, we were thinking about buying according to the candlesticks and the institutions, and all of the momentum was going up, and then this happened, right? Remember, we thought, well, we're in a downtrend, so let's sell. Obviously, we're going much lower. Look at this gap in prices. We're closing much lower, and then this happens, all right? How could we have known to be a buyer down here? Well, we apply the fluid buy-sell line. And you see now that the majority of the bars the entire time were in the buy zone. So why would we even consider this to think it's a downtrend? Now, sure, we had 1 close below, but you're going to need, as a rule of thumb, 3 to 5 closes, either above or below, to tell you that you're in that particular bias. So with only 1 close in the sell zone, that's not enough. And look at the slope of the buy-sell line. it's been strong the entire time, even when it was coming lower. So rather than looking at this as a downtrend, this is actually a buying opportunity because price is declining with a strong, steep upward slope. That's showing you that the momentum is still to the upside. And later on, well, as you can see, now that's why we went up, because the momentum was still saying it's going higher. So you spot a buy signal, you confirm it, and there it was, right here at the bottom. Now, here's one thing that we have learned. It's not guaranteed, but many times students have reported back to us, and we've seen that the signals that are closest to or touching right here, the buy-sell line, many times have the highest probability for consistency. So you see this buy signal was intersecting. So that's a high probability setup, and you could have gained 7 points in the following weeks. All right, another example here, FTCH. Okay, this was in July, coming into last month, into August. All right, this is the way so many traders justify their trading. This is the way they make their decisions based off things they've learned, myself included, 42 years ago. Such as this, they'll say, well, Steve, I've got to buy this. Look at the major support here. You know, I took that $10,000 class and, you know, they can't be wrong. They follow all the big money, all the big banks and the institutions. That's major support. And they're buying right there. And look at every time they buy at this support level, it goes up. So I don't want to stand in the way of those guys. That's where they've got the big money. So I'm going to be a buyer too. And then this happens, okay? Well, what happened to the big buyers? What happened to the big money? All right? Remember, I worked on the floor. As a specialist, I was making markets. I was buying and selling, sometimes just to the public, other times to big institutions. So I worked with the institutions. And in my opinion, this is just coming from my own personal experience, they were the most inconsistent of any traders I knew because they were always changing their mind. They would give me a huge order to buy 1 million shares of XYZ stock, and everyone would think, oh my goodness, that stock's going to be a buy because they're big buyers. And then a day later, they would cancel it. So what happened to the big, buy program in that stock? Well, it was canceled. They changed their mind. And they would do that all the time with buy and sell orders. So if I were to think that I was going to follow these guys, I would be foolish because they didn't have any clearer idea than anyone else. So if you think that there's major support based off these big banks or institutions, there really isn't. They can change their mind in a second. And what happens to the major support? It's no longer there. So as you can see, there was no support here. That was just a faulty idea. That was a myth. So how could we have taken advantage of this so we wouldn't have got caught up in this the way I used to 42 years ago? You apply the fluid buy-sell line. Now that we apply this, we see the majority of price has been below in the seller zone for ages. And even though we had maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 closes above, no signals were generated there, and it was right back to go below. And look at the flow of the buy-sell line. Extremely strong to the downside. So even if a buy signal was generated here, okay, which I may be incorrect, a buy signal may have been generated here, guess what? You wouldn't have taken it because it's going against the direction you want. So let's see what signals were generated. Tons of signals. Now, some of these were better than others. Had you taken this signal, well, you may have lost, and even may have lost on this one and this one. So these three may have been losers, possibly this fourth one. But look at this one, touching and intersecting the buy-sell line. Now that one would have been a good setup to take, and you could have generated 11 potential points to the downside. Once again, we're not saying you would have made 11 points. That's up to you. As we stated in the opening, we want to make you make your decisions. Now, the good news is in our classes, we provide you with upwards of 7 different exit points. So you can choose which one you want, but ultimately, you're going to be the one who decides, not us. Some of our students like to get out with a couple of point profit. Others like to go for as much as possible. That's your choice. We just simply provide you with the education. All right, let's look at this example in letter G, all right? Right in the beginning of August last month, look at this. It took off. So many traders say, how come I couldn't have taken advantage of that? Boy, it looked like it was coming straight down. It broke this support, and then it went right back up. There was some news. I'm never on the right side of the news. Well, listen, it's your decision how you want to trade. But one of the good things about what we teach you is that there is no requirement to follow any news. I haven't looked at the news in over 4 decades. I never watch the news. I never watch those news channels. I never look at earnings reports. I never look at, what the jobless numbers are or what the unemployment numbers, what are those figures? I don't even follow them. I never look at that. If I get a signal, I feel confident. I put in my, risk advantages in there and I make sure the parameters are all met. Well, I'll take the trade. I don't really care if some announcement is coming out. But if you want to, once again, you're in charge, not us. We're not going to tell you how to trade. So let's see how you could have followed that 4-step process. You add the fluid buy-sell line, and you see, even though, once again, we were selling off, where was price? The majority of price was above the fluid buy-sell line. And look at the slope. Very strong upward slope. So now all you have to do is apply the process of the buys signals. And you see you had a couple of here, but look at this one here. 2 days before that large gap up, touching the buy-sell line. So this was the high probability signal you could have taken and captured about 7 points in a couple of days if you want. All right, here's another example, an HEI. Once again, in hindsight, it's been going straight up. Could we have taken advantage of that somewhere down here where it didn't really look like it was doing anything? Well, we apply the fluid buy-sell line, and we have been in the buy zone for ages, all the way going back to March. So don't ever play that victim role and say, boy, I didn't know you were supposed to buy this. I thought it was a short. You know, that guy on TV told me to sell this. It went up too high. That's silly. That's why we don't listen to those outside sources, because they have no higher level of consistency than anything else. Why not just listen to the market? Remember, keep trading simple. And if price is in the blue buy zone, then you just want to have a buyer's bias. So now you know you're going to be a buyer. Then you look for buy setups using strategy 4. And you can probably see them on your own if you've been trading long enough. I know I can see some here on my own. But if you want to check your work, you click on the signal arrows and look at all the different chances you had to get along. Okay? So there's always going to be opportunity, especially when you make things simple by listening to the market, not the institutions, not the candlesticks that are used in a faulty traditional sense, not volume or not indicators that have no sense of consistency. Why not just listen to the market? Because the market knows what it wants to do. So then our job is just simply to jump on board whatever direction it wants to go. All right, here's another example where people say, well, Steve, you don't really want to do anything in this. This is basically going sideways. It's a flat market. I don't want to be trading flat markets. If you say always listen to the market, well, the market is basically telling me it doesn't want to do anything. It doesn't have any direction, okay? And then this happens. I'll say, well, how did that happen? I thought there was no direction. If we apply the fluid buy-sell line, we see that, yes, the market was telling us the whole time that the majority of bars were below. Sure, we had 1, 2, 3 close above, right back below, 1, 2 above, right back below. Not enough consistency to tell us it wanted to go higher. And even if it did want to go higher, we have to wait for this to turn up. And the whole time it's been going steadily downward. So that's telling us the momentum is to the downside, even though we had a few bars close above. So we apply the process, and guess what? We had 2 signals. Now this was a buy signal. It met all the requirements of the pattern. But in order to take that buy signal, we need to see this fluid buy-sell line start to head strongly upward. And which direction is it going? It's going down. So we're not going to take that signal. We just saved ourselves a loss. But look at this. 2 days later, a sell signal is generated with the fluid buy-sell line headed south. So we can take that one. And 20 points coming into mid to end of August. Okay? Once again, can't get any simpler than that. Here's an example in PSA. All right, this is the way most traders view the markets, listening to outside sources, the way my mentors taught me. They say, listen, Steve, 99.9% of traders listen to the wrong thing. They call this outside sources or noise, all right? Perfect example. It looked like PSA was going higher. You could have said, well, we hit some major resistance right here. This is probably where all the big banks are selling. And then look at all these downward movements here, okay? If you're a candlestick trader, you say these are all bearish engulfing patterns. That is really negative. We got to go short. There's a bearish engulfing pattern right at the top here. And if you like to look at countdowns and chart patterns, look at all of the days that the bars closed on their lower than their opening. All right, in the last dozen days, 10 days closed lower. So that's an extremely negative way to look at the market, right? That's extremely negative bias, right? Right? What happened to that? Okay? This is why most traders fail. You're listening to the wrong things. Let's apply the fluid buy-sell line, what tells you what the market wants to do. Guess what? The majority of the price was always in the blue buy zone. Sure, we had one close below. That was it. Not enough to tell us. And even if we wanted to go short, Look at the momentum of the fluid buy-sell line. It's going up. So we don't want to go short when that's going up. Now, apply some buy signals. Look at this. A cluster of 3 buy signals. 2 were actually touching the buy-sell line. So why would I have to look at, faulty candlestick patterns? Why would I have to look at patterns that are looking at confluence and closes that close lower? I mean, that's silly. Why would I have to look at support and resistance? Why waste your time on useless noise that really doesn't help you? Focus on the things that matter. The only thing that matters is what the stock is telling you. It was telling you it had a buyer's bias. It met the requirements of the pattern, and 2 of these signals were touching the fluid buy-sell line. Those are high probability setups. You could have taken those signals in the beginning of August, could have bought calls, because I realize it's expensive stock to buy. That's 100 points coming into the end of August, beginning of September this month. How about KMPR? Okay, once again, in hindsight, this stock has been going higher. All right, how can we take advantage of this? Well, we see here that some of the bars were in the sell zone, but while they were in the sell zone, look at the slope of the buy-sell line. It's going up. So we don't want to take any sell signals. But guess what? A sell signal was generated. Following the simple rule that you don't want to trade out of sync with the momentum of the fluid buy-sell line, you would not have taken that trade. And even though we didn't have a buy signal generated, as my mentors taught me, sometimes the best trades are the ones you never take. So this would have really added to your consistency because you wouldn't have experienced a losing trade right here, okay? You see how simple this is. So sometimes you're not going to even have a trade. Sometimes the actual setup is faulty. But with the fluid buy-sell line, okay, you can really help yourself and really start to get more consistent. Now remember, if you joined us late, we're only going to take questions at the end. So if you happen to write something in your question and answer box, we won't be looking at it until the end of the presentation in about 15 minutes. All right, let's look at this example in SHOP, S-H-O-P. All right, once again, in hindsight, it's easy to see that this should have been a buy, right? But how could we have known back here, well before we had this tremendous run-up, okay? This is where traders, once again, love to play the victim game. They love to say, gosh, I never get to find out these ones that take off. I always find out after the fact that they've gone up 100, 200 points. I never get to take advantage of it because I just don't know they're going to go up. Well, remember, no one knows how high or how low something will go. We don't, and we don't predict anything. We're not a predictor. We just give you simple tools and techniques to listen to the market. If it wants to go up, there's a high probability that we know that it's going to go up or going to go lower. And then we give you high probability techniques and methods to capture some of that move. That's all we do. We're not predicting how high or how low something will go. But looking back in hindsight, well, my goodness, you could have known back here in February of this year that the stock was in the buy zone. So at least you would have known that this should have been looked at from a buyer's bias. And then once you added strategy number 4, well, there are signals being generated all over the place. Look at all the buy signals generated. Had you taken these first couple of ones, and you potentially could have captured over 200 points, 230 points to the upside coming into the last week of August. So not to tell you that this happens all the time and not to tell you that you would have made 230 points, but potentially if you had taken these first couple of signals, you could have captured upwards of 230 points. It's up to you. Here's another example on BIDU. Once again, let me show you how most traders, myself included some 4 decades ago, used to trade. We'd look at this and say, well, gosh, the trend is obviously down. But wait a minute. Oh, we broke out. That good news happened. Look at those gap ups. Okay, so we got to be a buyer now. And then, wow, I guess that buying program is over. I guess the institution stepped in, so now I'm a seller, right? This is the way most traders trade. And this is why we lose, because we're always a day late and $1 short. Why don't we just learn how to listen to the market instead of this useless outside noise, okay? When you apply the fluid buy-sell line, we don't care about the bounces and the dips and the news and the noise. We're just looking at where price is in relation to the fluid buy-sell line. It's been in the seller zone this entire time. Not one bar closed in the buy zone. So why would we ever think about going long, like down here? That's silly. Just look at it from a seller's point of view. You have a higher level of consistency, and look at the downward slope. It's been very strong. That's telling you there's a lot of momentum to the downside. So even when you had this big bounce, that was a selling opportunity. That wasn't a buying opportunity. And once you add the pattern Well, look at all the sells you could have taken advantage of. Now, these would have been the high probability ones. This one right here, it's touching the buy-sell line. And then another one right here, okay? Doesn't get any simpler than that. All right, looking at Shack, okay, same process again, going straight up. We apply the buy-sell line. We see that it's been going strong to the upside the entire time, all the way back to March. We apply the signals, and we see here that we had potentially, we were able to capture upwards of 50 points. Now, the high probability ones were right here in May, touching the buy-sell line. You could have taken any one of these three, potentially captured upwards of 50 points. Now, on the downside, looking at TLRY, it's been in the news lately. A lot of people saying, has this bottomed out? Well, let's look in hindsight. Coming into the mid-August, we see that we have been in the sell zone this entire time. Sure, we had a couple of times where we bounced above, but if we add the pattern, we see that we've had some really high probability sell signals that were close to and touching the buy-sell line you could have taken advantage of, okay? Okay, so let's recap before we go into the question and answer portion of this presentation. Remember, the four-step process is first, choose your market. I know it sounds simple, but there are so many markets you can trade. I've been showing you stocks, but trust me, when we first started applying strategy 4, it was mainly for stocks. We even labeled the course stock momentum strategy number 4. But we have seen through our testimonials from our students around the world that they apply it to currency pairs. They apply it to futures markets. They apply it to ETFs, to commodities, to even Bitcoin. So it really makes no difference what market or what time frame. Now, once you choose your market, click on the buy-sell line, all right? That's the 50-period moving average, but we want to choose the fluid feature because that's going to give us that proprietary momentum of the downward or upward slope. It's also going to give you the buyer's or the seller's bias with the blue screen or the reddish-orange screen. And then once you know what side of the fence to be on, once you know what bias to have, you simply click on strategy 4. Now remember, we are an educational company. We are not a systematic company. So we teach you in our course what to look for. But if you want to check your work, click on strategy 4, click on arrows, and you'll see if you're learning in line with what the pattern requires. This is all done simply but powerfully on our new PTS Primo Charting Platform. I designed this with Pro Trader strategies to make trading simple so that you could learn how to trade in a simple process and really get it under your belt so that you can be in charge of your own trading decisions. Now, remember, strategy number 4 can be applied to any market, any time frame, and any direction. So don't get stuck in thinking that it's only a stock strategy. All right, we have a great discount for all the attendees today. We're going to give you a great way, in fact, 3 different ways to take advantage of this. This is our PTS Primo Charting Platform special along with Primo Strategy number 4. This is our most consistent strategy to date. It's a pattern recognition method. Complete Strategy 4 rules. There's an aggressive as well as conservative version. We furnish you with all the different entry points, upwards of 7 different entry points, upwards of 6 or 7 different exit points, and upwards of 6 or 7 different stop placement points. All right. This is a great way to get your trading back on track for the end of the year and to start 2020 in the right direction. Even though it says stock strategy, remember, that's when we first started this program. This can be applied to virtually all markets and time frames. But we're going to give you 3 different ways to become a course member, okay? Option number 1. Now, this includes all 15 of the different educational videos with complete entry and exit rules to strategy number 4. This is our online course for $6.95, okay? A real simple way to get involved in the strategy number 4 course with all of our other students. If you want to take it up a notch, we have option number 2 for $9.95. This comes with the educational course, including the automatic signal add-on for your platform. So let's say you like to trade with NinjaTrader or with TradeStation or with Metastock, MT4, okay? Thinkorswim, we have ways for that as well. We can provide you with the add-ons that automatically will generate those up and down arrows for you, all right? Now, if you want to take it to the next level, we give you option number 3, and that is the complete course, the educational course, but that includes 3 months of the PTS Primo Charting Platform, which comes with a scanner for $9.95. So the reason why this is the same price as option number 2 is because a lot of students don't have a platform of their choice. Maybe they're just looking at charts online, but they don't have a platform that really tells them where to buy or where to sell or anything of that nature. We're going to give you 3 months of the platform, which you just saw, with a scanner. So you can scan on a nightly basis for only $9.95. That gives you the up and down arrows. And with the platform, you get the fluid buy-sell line. So you're not going to get that with option number 1 or number 2. You're just going to get the buy-sell line, which is the 50-period moving average. But you're not going to get that fluid way, the way it looks with the blue screen in the back or the reddish-orange screen. So this is a really great way to learn. Now, let me show you what's also included in the PTS Primo Charting Platform. Obviously, you get strategy number 4, the enhanced buy-sell line features. This also comes with a strength of trend tool. Now, I'm giving a special webinar on this specific strength of trend tool on this Saturday as well. It's a great tool I developed with Pro Trader Strategies for telling you how much strength is left in the current market you're watching. We're also going to have automatically generated exit levels. Okay, this is one of the great features on the platform. Over 90 of the most prominent technical indicators, including personalized tech support. But the best thing about this 3-month offer, totally free, is that you get the signal scanner. So you can scan for nightly strategy number 4 signals through dozens and dozens, if not hundreds, of stocks or markets. For example, this is how simple it is. In that green strategy tab on our platform, click on strategy number 4, and before you were clicking on signal arrows, just click on scanner, okay? And you're going to see this page appear next to your chart. All right, all you have to do is click on load symbols. We provide you with a symbol list of stocks, futures, currency pairs, Bitcoin, commodities, anything you want to trade. Basically, we have markets in other, symbol lists in other markets like the European markets, okay, Canadian markets. Anyway, whatever one you want to pick comes down in a series of seconds, and then you just click on scan. And in about 30 seconds, you see a series of either green or red horizontal bars. The green bars mean that's a buy signal in that stock. The red bars means that's a sell signal. That's how simple this process is. Every night you can scan for markets. It'll take you probably no longer than a couple of minutes. That's how simple and how fast it is. Now, we all know that a lot of people like to look at news. All right, let me share with you something that's happened recently. Yahoo Finance reported about AT&T stock, letter T. They said, will AT&T stock continue to soar? Now, it stated that the stock, letter T, continued its momentum and gained more than 4% in the last 5 trading days. The stock hasn't slowed down despite rallying more than 28% this year. Now, Monday, which was just this last Monday, Citigroup analyst Michael Rollins raised its target price on AT&T stock to 42 from 37. Kept its buy rating. Okay, so this is great news. This is the way most traders trade. If you look at the stock, this just happened this last week or so. It's been going straight up. This is the way most traders trade. They'll buy somewhere around here, which is not bad. You would have made some money, okay, in this last week based off of that news, the rating, raising their rating on it to up to 42. But look what you could have done with our scanner. You could have scanned and seen that there were buy signals weeks in advance of that news and points lower as well. Now, you could have seen that there was a buy signal back here in July, a couple of months ago, touching the rising fluid buy-sell line, okay? So why wait for news? This is why I don't look at news, because usually it comes after the fact. Now, once again, we're not telling you shouldn't look at news, but personally, people always ask me if I do. I haven't looked at news in ages. So with letter T right here, if I were trading this, I would have taken advantage of this one. This is a high probability buy setup right here, okay? This is the kind of information you'll be able to receive on a nightly basis. Not always winners. I'm not saying they're always going to be winners, but you'll be able to receive signals that are generated on a nightly basis using our scanner. So a year from today, trust me, you will have wished you became a member of this course, not for the powerful information that we have for you, but also for the price, because most likely these prices will be close to double a year from today. That's how popular they are. So take advantage of this. Either get just the online course for $6.95 or $9.95 for the online course, which includes the up and down arrows, or to take it up a notch, $9.95, which includes 3 months of the PTS Primo Charting Platform free. That's a $1,900 value for only $9.95, okay? And included with this, which I didn't mention, you're also going to get educational correspondence. So what exactly does that mean? Well, that means you'll get my personal email address. You can email me whenever you'd like. in the middle of the night, in the weekends, whenever you want, and I will answer you as soon as possible on any question you may have about trading strategy number 4 or the buy-sell line or how to apply it. So you're going to become a student of mine through this really great offer to become a member of the strategy number 4 course. All right, so here's how to take advantage of this. I developed the course with Pro Trader Strategies. I also developed the platform. You can contact them either at their email address or you can call them directly to pay on over the phone at 310-598-6677. If you'd like to go to the information and sign up page right here, here's the link at the bottom. I'm not sure if that's a live link or not, but there is a live link that has been posted in the chat box of the GoToWebinar column. So you can click that on and it will take you to that sign up page online. You can enter your credit card if you like. Now, if you want more information about the pricing or about the platform, please, there is absolutely no obligation. You can contact Pro Trader Strategies. They have trading consultants manning the phones right now. They would be more than happy to answer any question you have, and there's no obligation. Just call them at 310-598-6677. They would be happy, once again, to answer questions concerning the prices, also concerning the different platforms that you can apply the up and down arrows to, or concerning our platform, the 3 months and what the price may be after that, or if there's a discount included. They handle all of that. So they're the ones to talk to, and they would be happy to work with you and to give you a really great deal, okay? I'm going to leave this information up here. We have about 15 more minutes left. If you have any questions, just go to your question and answer box. This would be the time now to ask me. And I see there are a few questions here. Let's see. It says, your chart on PSA showed plus 100. I'm not sure if that's right or not. It was about a 20-point gain. Okay, so let's say it was a 20-point gain. Let's say if you had a choice to take a 20-point gain or not take it at all, I'm sure you probably would have said, I think I'll take the 20-point gain. Okay, so sorry about that. We probably just had a disconnect in the translation of the numbers. But be that as it may, you saw that it was a gain and not a loss, so I don't think you can go wrong with that. Vita's saying, thank you so much. I've learned something very helpful now. Thank you very much. Well, that's what we're all about. We're all about educating you. As you can see here, this was an educational presentation. We share with you the 4-step process, and the 4-step process will get you there in terms of consistency. But I don't want you to think that the way so many other webinars you may have attended in the past would say, oh, we're going to make you a winning trader in 3 months and you're going to retire and buy that dream home next year. You know, we don't believe in that. You get out what you put in. So it all depends on how much you're studying and researching and learning how to use this. But I'll be there with you every step of the way, Vita. So if you have any questions, anything concerning basically how to trade or something that isn't clicking for you, you just don't understand the process, you can always email. I'll be right there. Joe asked, does your platform work on Mac? Yes, it does, Joe. There are simple steps to take to have it work on Mac. That's a question for Pro Trader Strategies because they handle all the tech support in that direction. I handle mainly the teaching and the trading of the courses. So if you have a question about Mac, once again, there's no obligation. That's a great question. Contact Pro Trader Strategies, email them, or call them. I would say that's your best bet because they can answer in 2 seconds just the different steps you have to take to be able to apply it with a Mac, okay? It's a good question. But I know, yes, there is that capability as well, okay? Question, do you recommend brokers? You know what? We're not affiliated with any brokers. Once again, we're just simply an educational company, but just something that I like to tell students, especially if you're beginning and you haven't had any experience with brokers before. And once again, this is not a recommendation. This is not any advice. I'm just telling you my opinion, and what I suggest is always try to keep your expenses as cheap as possible, as little as possible. So if you're looking for brokers, pretty much everything is automated now. So just try to go where you have the least expenses as possible, especially if you're beginning. You don't want to have major expenses paying for all these brokerage services that you won't need. Now, since we teach you how to make your own decisions, and what we teach you in our courses is that you don't have to take advice and suggestions from brokers, that you know what you want to do. That automatically eliminates a lot of these higher priced brokers. You can just basically go to something online. So it's up to you. Once again, this is just simply, my opinion. I would try and take the least expensive of them just to save money, okay? Because if you follow our courses and what we teach you, you're going to be making your own decisions. So why pay for someone else's advice when you know what you want to do? And that's really the cornerstone to our teaching. We want to put you in the driver's seat so that you don't have to rely on anyone or anyone else to tell you what to do. You don't have to ever ask that question, what do you think of the market? Or what do you think of this stock? Because you'll be able to apply the fluid buy sell line and right off the bat say, well, that should be only having a buyer's bias, or that should only have a seller's bias. That's the way you should be able to trade, okay? So why pay for extra to have someone execute your orders for you? These are great questions, excuse me. And you can see our attention to detail in trying to educate you. That's what we're trying to do. As an educational company, that's our only goal. We're not here to tell you what to buy. We're not here to tell you what the perfect market is. We're simply here to try and educate you. So hopefully we'll be able to do that if you sign up for our course. Take advantage of that great discount because once again, in 2020, those prices will not be the same, all right? A couple of years ago, we were advertising strategy number 4 and it was about $200 or $300 cheaper. Now it's gone up $300 more. Next year it might be up to close to $1,200 or $1,500. So take advantage of it now, and Pro Trader Strategies would be happy to work with you as well, okay? Possibly they can set up a payment plan for you. Give them a call, absolutely no obligation, at the number right there, 310-598-6677. Okay, great questions. As we conclude now, I hope you learned how simple it is to become a consistent trader. You just have to go through this process. But remember, consistency does not guarantee that you're going to go on that dream vacation, that you're not going to make $10,000 a month. Consistency just means that you'll be able to trade 2 steps forward, 1 step back with that approach. That's all we're trying to instill in you because consistency will sustain you. Once I learned how to be a consistent trader, that's the cornerstone to being able to trade 30, 40, 50 years down the road, okay? Thank you so much for attending. If you have any questions, remember, there's no obligation. Contact Pro Trader Strategies. They would be happy to answer any question you have. As we look at our required disclaimer, just one last time, I want to thank you for attending. I hope you learned a little bit today, and I look forward to all of you becoming students of mine in the Strategy Number 4 course. Thank you so much for attending. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.